Hi.
Hello.
Hi.
Hello.
Hello.
And Robinson's an amazing curator, and she's the director and founder of 14C, which is the first art fair in New Jersey, right?
Yep. First International Art Fair in New Jersey.
So, everyone keep your video on so Robinson can see your faces. And at the end, we're gonna do a QA and take it away.
Okay.
Robinson.
So, since I don't know what else you've learned, and I'm sure Trish is an amazing teacher, if I'm going over stuff that you guys know cold, just let me know in the chat. Like, yeah, we know Instagram, it's important. Or feel free to ask questions in the chat. If I'm not being clear about something, or if I'm on a specific topic and you'd like me to explore it further. But I'm going to introduce myself first. As Trish said, I'm Robinson Holloway. I've been in Jersey City for 8 years. My actual early background was in sports journalism and sports television. But then I switched over to the arts, I guess about 15 years ago. And it was a good switch. I love the arts. I have a great passion for the arts. I have never made a penny off of the arts. I have always done things through nonprofits. In fact, the art fair is a nonprofit. I created 2 philanthropic nonprofit galleries, one in Greenwich Village in Manhattan and one in Jersey City when I moved over here. And I've always been, involved and tried to help artists. And I have a great passion for the visual arts. I am, well, you can see there's some behind me. This house is full of them. I have a very eclectic art collection. I've been very lucky that I've been able to travel the world through sports and pick up a lot of really interesting artists and meet a lot of artists. So I always had that passion and I always wanted to get involved. So I joined the Association of Women Art Dealers and I am on their board now. It's an international organization based in London and I'm about to become their board chair. So I can tell you, I assume you're all artists who are interested in galleries. I can tell you how the gallery model is and what its future will be. But then I also was the founding chair of the Jersey City Arts Council. And in that role, Art Fair 14C came into being because it was the answer to the question, how do we help artists? And the answer is, of course, very different if you're a sculptor versus if you are a choreographer versus a poet. And we knew for the visual arts that art fairs had started to dominate. Although they've been around before the 21st century, it's really a 21st century thing where they started to explode. And nearly half of all art sales happen at art fairs. And most of our artists and galleries are basically shut out for reasons of economics, access. The art world in many ways is a rigged system. So part of, I think, what you'll be learning is how to work the system, or at least work part of it. It became very important that we have an art fair and that we give people access to an art fair. So actually my initial thought was to sort of create a collective gallery and then bring them to the affordable art fair or to maybe Frieze, depending. And that seemed really expensive actually, and a lot. It was easier to just create our own art fair. And it's now in its 3rd year. We will be having it over at the Glass Gallery at Mana Contemporary, which is a huge, the Glass Gallery is the largest uncolumned space in North America. It's 30,000 square feet, beautiful. It's gonna be a great art fair in October. Since I assume you are all New Jersey artists, the fair has 2 component parts. One is regular exhibition booths, and those are open to anyone, whether it's a gallery from Trenton or a gallery from Tokyo, or actually the NJCU art department had a booth. Individual artists can have one, pairs of artists, groups of artists, and we make it quite affordable. We also have a a section, the juried show, which is open only to New Jersey artists. And that is, there are some great opportunities. Once you're a juried artist, we've gotten them residencies, we've gotten them gallery representation. We do a lot for our artists. So I think actually part of, that's how I have an idea of how you can market yourself better, because there are people like me, a lot of people like me, who are looking for you. We always want to find the undiscovered artist. I will tell you that is actually, I think, the reason for, even though the New York area, and specifically New York, has a lot of art fairs, having one in New Jersey was actually a really great model, because all the people in the art world in New York were really ready to believe that New Jersey could be next, and that, you know, all the artists in Brooklyn had been discovered, but New Jersey was just filled, whether it was in the Pine Barrens or down the shore, or in the industrial corridors. There were artists lurking everywhere that hadn't been found, and that excites people. So people are looking for you. They really are, and you just have to make yourself easy to be found. The old model was, you know, show your work at a gallery, the gallery signs you, and then they do the work marketing you. That model is basically dead. Well, not entirely dead, but it's close to dead. Galleries are shutting down. Galleries are not representing artists in the same way they used to. I mean, obviously, if you're Cindy Sherman, if you read the arts trades, you saw that when Metro closed down, she was immediately snapped up by Hauser and Wirth, but that's a special case. It's hard to get gallery representation, but the good thing is that nowadays you don't need it in the same way you used to. The social media and art fairs have helped level the playing field, and allowed individual artists to be found. As I said, we're looking for you, and the ways we look are myriad. Number one is Instagram. If you had to pick just one social media platform, that would be the one. And I was telling Trish, like, there are hashtags I follow because we have a New Jersey-based art fair, and because we have a juried show that celebrates New Jersey artists. I follow the hashtag NJ Artist, or New Jersey art, hashtag New Jersey Artist, or JC Art. I mean, any Trenton artist, any of those I can find, I follow. And when somebody tags themselves that way and they intrigue me, I keep exploring. So make yourself easy to be found. If you are a brutalist sculptor, then you should definitely hashtag yourself that every single time. And put where you're from and what kind of work you can do. The more hashtags that are descriptive that you think people might be looking for, I mean, because if you just say contemporary art, there are people who follow the hashtag contemporary art, but that just so fills your feed that it's better to narrow it down. You know, there are people who follow black and white photography or portraiture or whatever. You know, figure out what descriptive phrases fit you best and make sure that those are in all of your social media, because people are looking, and I can tell you, I mean, every gallery owner I know, especially during the pandemic, has just been scouring Instagram, looking for artists, because now everybody's online, so it's become a different metric. So make yourself found. And as I said, once I find somebody who intrigues me, then I keep looking. I look through their feed and I go to their website. And there are very few great artist websites. So that is something that can really set you apart. Have your grandmother look at it. Have it be really easy to use, because if people get frustrated to just find your work or find out how to contact you or find out even like where you are, there are so many people who you can go through every page of their website and you don't even know if they're American, let alone whether they live in Michigan or New Jersey or what. You know, people want to know these things. And I think that people forget. So maybe get your grandmother's friend who doesn't know you at all to look through your website and see if it's easy to figure out what kind of artist you are. And I know it's difficult to always keep a website updated, So definitely have, your Instagram updated all the time and indicate that on your website. But really, and those contact forms, I'm going to tell you, even though I really search out artists, if I see a contact form instead of your email address, I generally don't contact you. It's one extra step. And I'd say this is true when you're selling art in a gallery or anything. Any small impediment between you and the art lover, get rid of it. It's just not worth it. If you are really concerned about getting a lot of spam, put artist name and then write at@gmail.com, so that a bot can't find it. That's all you need to do. Or I actually did see one artist who just had on their contact page, they had a photo of themselves painting their email address on the wall. So, a bot couldn't scan it, but it was very visible and obvious. And it was actually a really charming thing. So do that. Make yourself easily findable for the people who are looking for you. Now, not everyone will be looking for you, so you need to figure out how to have people stumble across you. There are, as I said, Instagram is the #1 for the arts. That is what everybody in the art world uses, and that's what it looks. It's a very visual medium. But the fact is, other platforms are really useful. 95% of America is on Facebook. Now, you're probably all too cool for Facebook. I feel sometimes I'm too cool for Facebook too, but the fact is people are there. And you should have, even if you don't want to have your Joe Smith Facebook page with, pictures of your cat and your high school reunions, you should have Joe Smith artist page. That can be, just make it look very professional, have it linked to your website, have a few images, have it linked to your Instagram, so you don't really have to maintain it, but it's there because there are people who buy art who are on Facebook, just because there are so many people on Facebook. The other one I would say is you should have LinkedIn, because LinkedIn is the Facebook for people with money who are business people. That's what they look at. That's the way they use it. So having at least a minimal LinkedIn profile with a few images of what you do and a link to you. And actually the arts does not use LinkedIn in a really meaningful way. That is a big vacuum that actually can be filled. YouTube is huge. YouTube is actually maybe even bigger than Facebook because people spend more time on it. When you're having, do little videos of work in progress, do a little video of a tour of your studio. If you have if you're in a group show or have a gallery opening, do a little video, nothing too long. Though, there may be things that you as an artist can particularly talk about, a special process you do that you can put on it. But start yourself a YouTube page and just keep throwing up videos. Make them fun, make them entertaining. They don't have to be super complex, but they're there and they'll always be there. The problem with Instagram is people flick past it and then it vanishes. So for things that will always be there, YouTube, and speaking of things you're probably too cool for, Pinterest. Pinterest is really useful because, all right, say you are, you're a painter who paints garden scenes with rabbits in them. I don't know if any of you are, but if you have tags, rabbits, gardens, painting, flowers, whatever, those tags will live on in Pinterest forever. And millions of people will get to them. And some of them will actually be interested in a painting of a rabbit in a field that you did. And your ID will be attached to it, and they can then go to your website. So you're just trying to find so many ways to bring people to ultimately your website, because your website is where it's your door to the world. It is the place where you can have the most information, where it should actually reflect who you are as an artist. Once people have looked at your website, if they don't know what you do or don't have a good idea of who you are, then you failed. And I get that it's really hard to do a good website, but at the very least, make it simple and easy for someone who's looking at it for a few minutes, and also easy for people who want to really dig into who you are and arrange a studio visit and all of that. I think that given that the gallery model is no longer what it used to be, you're forced to become entrepreneurs and small business people. You are a small business, and you have to actually treat it that way. The fun part is making the art, but unless you want to just live in your studio and just have fun and not make money off of it and not get a greater audience, you do have to treat yourself as a small business. And as a small business, you have to use the same tools they do. You have to go to conferences and join trade associations. In this case, conferences would be galleries, art fairs. Get to know the people who the gallery owners who you think represent artists that are similar to you. Because I'll tell you, galleries do not very rarely go out on a limb and do things that are radically different. Like if you are a brutalist sculptor, don't go to Catherine Markel. She specializes in lovely abstracts. So she really won't be as interested and you'll be wasting everybody's time. So really, if you're going to approach a gallery, be strategic and get to know them at an art fair. But don't talk them up too much because they're really busy at the art fairs. But, you know, send them a note about how much you enjoyed their work and you know, add a few things. People are always looking, even if they say they're not, even if they say they're never accepting new people, they're always looking because everybody wants to find somebody that's been undiscovered. And I would say join, you know, a group like Pro Arts. This is not an endorsement of Pro Arts, although I think they do good things, but there are groups like them that have professional development seminars and help, and have member shows and have their own space, you know, or like Studio Montclair does this too, where you have opportunities to show. And you want opportunities to show. That's the most important thing. And you want to be able to get people to come. So you need to start building up a mailing list. And again, I get a lot of emails from a lot of artists. Sorry, scam likely. So be careful. Yeah, be very strategic. Do not, there is one artist who, and honestly, given my position in the art world, I feel like because I know what happens when people unsubscribe from my mailing list, I sometimes take it a little personally, or at least I note it if I know them. So I don't unsubscribe from anybody's mailing list, but there are people who I really wish I could because they bombard me with nonsense. You know, be strategic. Don't just say, hey, I finished a painting and send out a blast email. But if you're going to be in a show, do that. And if you're going to do something newsworthy, consider not necessarily a press release, because again, like gallery system, the press is falling apart and disintegrating. But if you have a local paper or the Jersey Journal or whatever, and you're in a show or you're in an event or something that's a little newsworthy, you know, write to the one reporter and get them to cover you. And then you've got something to add to your news feed that you are, you know, that you've had a show and that the Jersey Journal wrote it up. You do have to spoon feed them sometimes. So basically just write the story and let them maybe tweak it a little bit, but sometimes they won't. Sometimes they'll just publish it exactly as you wrote it. So write a nice story about yourself. And, but it has to be something fairly newsworthy. Don't just, you know, be very strategic about that. But there are, I mean, like, think about who you want to find and how to catch their attention without alienating them. And I think it's building up a body of work, being able to be found. And once you're found, being able to impress people, making your website elegant and lovely and a joy to look at and explore. That would really be, I had a couple other ideas. There are a lot of podcasts out there, and they're increasingly a lot in the arts world. So see if you can find a way to be a guest. You know, there are several podcasts who I think are really, really good, and they are looking for artists. And you have to actually figure out what's your hook. Not just, hey, I'm a new emerging artist is not enough of a hook. But if you are doing something that nobody else is doing, if you are doing, if you are part of a, you know, I don't know, an old tradition, like, not that egg tempera is completely unknown anymore, but people don't use it as much as they used to. So maybe somebody's going to do something on, techniques that, are not as much in use. And you could say, yes, I only work in egg tempera. I think that getting to know these people and being able to suggest, if you're ever doing a podcast on egg tempera and other techniques like that, I'm your guest. So I think it really is treating yourself like a small business and getting out there, finding who can help you, what podcast do you want to be on, and figure out a way to be on it. Because the fact is, podcasts, everybody's looking for content. Newspapers are looking for content. Podcasts are looking for content. Social media is all about content. So provide interesting content. And of course, be awesome as an artist, and people will be delighted when they find you. Just make yourself really easy to be found. I think that's the best advice I can give. It's tricky. It's so nice when you get to the point where you can just say, hello, gallery, represent me. Thank you. Do my work for me. Market me so I can just create. That's the ideal. It's just, I don't want to say a pipe dream, but it's less likely than it used to be. It's really, the models are changing. They may change back, but there's so much that people invest in creating a gallery and doing their own marketing and gathering a group of collectors. You have to fit into their system, because if they have collectors that are only interested in black and white photography, they are never going to want somebody who does collage. They're just not. And they wouldn't even if they personally love you and think you're the greatest thing that's ever happened to art and collage, they know that they don't have a collector base that they can persuade to buy a collage. So just being aware of the art world. Read ArtNet News every day. I think that, and really thinking of yourself as a small business is the best way to approach how to market your product, which is your amazing art. Let me look and see if in any of my notes I have missed anything. Well, I think those are pretty much my insights. So does anybody have any questions or thoughts?
Hi.
Hi.
So when we do like, how do we get, I know like through the hashtags and stuff like that, but how do we, I don't know how to word it correctly, like pull more people into our Facebook or Instagram?
That is a huge challenge. And it's not even just getting people, it's engaging people too, because like I look at a lot of Instagram pages, and there are people who have 25,000 followers, and there are people who have 2,500 followers, and every time they post something, they both get the same 150 likes. So makes me wonder about those 25,000 followers. Were they purchased? Or, to be fair, the algorithm of Instagram and Facebook is pure evil. The best way to do it is to follow others and comment on them and get them to follow you back. And just be out there. Once you have established yourself as a fairly active Instagram page, they will start recommending you to, if you follow, again, let's say you are a painter of rabbits. If you follow Hunt Sloanum and other painters of rabbits, and they'll start assessing that anybody who's interested in rabbit paintings should follow Hunt Sloanum and you. So Instagram will start suggesting it. But it's really just hard work, and it's sending out emails, and it's reminding, every time you send out an email, put it in your signature. Follow me at Instagram on, at this handle. And use hashtags. And I'm like, tagging other people works sometimes, depends on who. You tag Taylor Swift, she is not going to pay attention to you. You tag Gagosian Gallery, they're not going to pay attention to you. But if you tag, say, a smaller gallery, if you tag Art Fair 14C, it's hit or miss depending on which one of us is actually looking at Instagram that day. But I'll usually, if somebody tags me, at least look at what they posted. So, that can help. It's just to get real followers, engage with them, have engaging content, And when people follow you, see who they are first, in case there are some like Russian bot of, who just wears bikinis, which you get a lot of. Follow them, comment on their stuff. Like what these social media platforms want is people who spend time on their platform and engage. So the more you engage and the more you can get people to engage with you. So maybe ask a question. I just finished this painting, or did I? Do you think I should add another rabbit? And then you get people answering that signals to Instagram, oh, this is maybe an account that we need to send people towards because 10 people just commented in the last 10 minutes on it. It's doing things, there are tricks like that. If you go out there, there are a million tricks like, oh, do it, post on a Tuesday afternoon at 2:00. These things don't really matter. There are a few that might get you a little more, but you want to, it's a global audience and people look at Instagram all the time. I mean, obviously, if you're a business that relies on the 9 a.m. businessman looking at it, that's a different story. But you're an arts person, and people actually look, a lot of the arts people look at it in the evenings and on weekends. So I wouldn't worry about things like that. But yeah, engage, make your Instagram something that people want to see, and when they stumble across it, they want to follow you. So make it as engaging as you possibly can. And does that help? I also would suggest, even though like Instagram is the #1, anytime there's any new platform, even something like whether there's something like Twitter, which the arts doesn't really use, or TikTok or whatever is out there, even if you don't have time to use it, just secure your name on it. Like I put Art Fair 14C on every new social media platform, even though I don't always use it, because you never know when it's going to become the one. So at least I'll have my name, or I'll have the fair's name established. So that's other good point, is even if you don't know that you're ready to do Instagram or Twitter or whatever, just grab your name on all those platforms. And then when you're ready, start doing it. There are also a lot of programs that will simultaneously post something to Twitter, Instagram, to, all of them at the same time. So,
Hey, Robinson, do you know what Clubhouse is getting any traction for a social podcast platform for artists?
I don't know yet. Actually, that's something I'm literally exploring, because we're about to launch a podcast later this spring. And I don't know whether to, Clubhouse is definitely really interesting. The thing that's most interesting about it is that the establishment seems to want to shut it down. So that to me either means it's doomed, or it has incredible credibility and potential reach. But I have to say, I don't know enough about Clubhouse. But it is actually on my queue. I've opened up a whole bunch of articles, and we're researching, whether we should, how we should, or if we should use Clubhouse.
Yeah, I just got started using it.
Yeah, how do you find it?
You have to get invited
to
use
it.
it.
I mean, do you feel like it's working, or it's a useful platform?
I don't know. Some of the discussion groups aren't my demographic yet. I haven't really found the right one yet. So you have to really search for the group, your tribe that you want to follow.
And that is important. When we were, when the question about how do you build a following, part of it, it is be engaging, but maybe your following is on Reddit. You just don't know. There are a lot of different ways, but it's work. And I think you have to actually say, every morning, before breakfast or as I'm having my coffee, I'm doing social media. And that should be a combination of doing your own post and looking at others and commenting on them and reaching out to them and engaging. Because social media, all their algorithms are built on encouraging engagement and latching on to engagement. So once you've been shown to be a player, things will start coming your way.
Makes sense. Do you have an example of your favorite artist website?
Ooh, I should have actually looked. No. There are quite a few that I really, really like. Okay, ask me another question while I look up a couple to see if I direct you to one and then it's terrible. I'm going to really regret myself. I meant to actually look that up. I'm going to look for one right now. Okay, I'm going to go right now to dianaschmertz.com. Oh yeah, she actually does. Okay, so if you go to dianaschmertz.com, it's clean and lovely. Everything is squares because it's sort of Instagram friendly, all of her images. You can kind of figure out what she does just by looking at the homepage. She does these large scale paintings, which she then laser cuts words into them, whether it's a poem or it's the article, Title IX's text or the Declaration of Independence or whatever, or mathematical formulas. She has these figurative drawings, paintings, and then cuts words into them. And they're really spectacular to see in person. So she, and then if that's the first thing you see is social agreements, then you go to Moments of Contact, which is her last series, where she does these very intimate circles of sort of little tiny body parts that I think are really cool. So you kind of get a good look. It's very clean. It's very easy. She's got a statement. She's got a resume. She's got contact. It is a form, but there's also a button you can push that you can send her an email directly. And there's a link to her Facebook and her YouTube channel. I don't know why there's no link to her Instagram. But that's a nice, clean website. And I'll say she does not tell you where she lives either. You can see her resume, gives you all of her list of everything, every place she's shown, which is good. But I'm going to tell you, most people will just quickly scan it. And then if they see something like Whitney, they'll be like, whoa. But otherwise, they're not going to absorb it too much. It's just words. Having a statement, having a brief bio is really useful because you do want people to connect. And you never know what they're going to, which is not to say you should have a huge long bio, but you never know people are going to connect with. If they see, spent every summer on the Jersey Shore, that's like a point of connection for a lot of people. Went to SUNY Purchase. Oh, that's a connection for a lot of people. Went to St. Peter's, of course. You never know what is going to spark somebody's interest and make them feel a commonality with you, the artist. And that's what you want. Your art is about connecting. You want to connect with your audience, and you can do it through your art, but you also can do it through your words, but don't drown people in them. So I guess that, I don't know that this is the perfect one, but when you asked me, that one just sort of came up to my mind.
I noticed she doesn't have her press list.
No, she does not. It's interesting. That's actually, I think, you haven't brought it up, but I have friends who are artists. I have a lot of friends who are artists who feel self-conscious about tooting their own horn. And she is one of them. She has a lot of press, but she hasn't put it up there. And I think I have another friend who will put the press up, but won't join Facebook or Instagram because she feels like she's boasting every time she's like, here's a painting I did. So that's actually why the ideal is, of course, to have a gallery owner do all the work for you and have them be the one that says, this is the most amazing artist. You should totally start collecting them. You should also have an answer ready if somebody comes to your studio and seems to be more interested in whether you will appreciate and value or not. The fact is, everybody has to buy art they love. And sometimes the art itself is enough, and sometimes the story behind it is. But I can't tell you how many people will buy art from an artist they love, or from an artist they're drawn to, or an artist they like, or they think is interesting. Because they can then, if somebody admires the painting over their couch, they can say, oh, I know that artist. She's amazing. I know this artist. He's amazing.
I did hear that before, that people who collect want to know the artist. It's really important.
Yeah. There are few enough of us who, when people come, a lot of it is for our own satisfaction and to see art on our walls, to live with art. A lot of that is internal. It has to make you happy. But also a lot of it is to have a beautiful home. And, you want your guests to go, wow, that's amazing.
Right.
And there are very few people who will, who can afford to have art that nobody has to have explained to them. Like everybody knows that's a Gerhard Richter or Pablo Picasso or Damien Hirst, for God's sake. So most people have to actually say, this artist is a phenomenal artist who came over from Italy in the 70s and was a Soho artist and made his living as an artist without gallery representation until he died at age 90 4 years ago. And that is another, he never went to a gallery, and that back in the 70s, he had a gallery in Rome. When he came over to New York, he actually thought he would, but he had a studio, a beautiful Soho studio, as they used to give artists in the 70s. And as he was sort of starting a new body of work to show to a gallery, he started getting to know people in the arts community in New York. And he would have, being a gregarious person, he would have these dinners. And people would come for dinner once a week and buy the paintings off his walls. So he began to realize, why do I need a gallery? So he had, he lived an incredible life. He painted full time. He spent every summer in Greece, and he had dinner parties once a week that were so entertaining and so many different, you'd find judges and poets and just all these amazing people would come to so people wanted to come to his dinner parties, and his work was so extraordinary that it was very rare for somebody to not at least get a small painting. But we loved him so much. We would go at least once a month to his dinner parties. And I'm going to say we have a really large collection of his work. We probably have 18 pieces.
Wow.
Yeah, we have, other than his son, we have the largest collection, I believe. They were really, really, really close friends of ours. So that's another thing I should have actually thought of. That is a good marketing thing. If once COVID is over, you want to get people to come to you, having, special open studio events, doesn't have to be dinner parties, but, having people get to know you. Oh, you know what? My screen share is not working. So was that?
Oh, wait, I have to wait. Try now.
Here, I'm gonna.
I had to unlock it.
Okay. Let me get it up again. And I'll also put it in the chat.
And you have one of my pieces.
Yeah, look, part of it was, I went to Trisha's studio and I got to see how she did it. And it helps, when the artist tells you something, especially it's like, I have to say I knew sort of how Raku works, but seeing her talk her way through the process and what she was thinking, what she was planning and how this worked and the sort of serendipity of a lot of that process was really interesting. And getting to know Trish, it makes you more amenable to wanting to buy from that artist or invest in that artist or keep aware of that artist. You do want to keep connected and, talk to curators, talk to gallery owners. I think it is like, you're a small business, you have to actually make connections. That is what people in the business world do. Everything is done through connections, and in the art world, it's a lot of the same. It would be nice to think that blazing talent was enough to open all doors, and it definitely helps, but this is a very cliquey business, and who often dictates what shows you get into. It's just the truth. So making connections, being talented is great. Being charming helps. Picasso was charming. He was also prolific and ridiculously talented. He had a lot going for him. He could also be a total asshole, but it didn't matter because at that point he was so famous that having a story where Picasso was an asshole to you was actually good currency in and of itself. So I think it's just, you know, you got to build an audience, and you're starting young, you're starting out, and it's going to be trickier. But, you know, living your life on social media is, maybe it's easier for people who are younger. I know a lot of the older artists I know, it's harder. It's harder for them to feel like they have to market themselves, especially as they're long established. But like people buy art off of Instagram all the time. The art world looked at 2020 as kind of a disaster because there were no art fairs except virtual ones, and people couldn't go to galleries. But the dirty little secret is people made a lot of money selling art. And I wouldn't have believed, and I have yet to buy a piece that I have not seen in person, but people do. So your website should, at some point, if not now, you know, maybe, I don't know how good your websites are, you know, at some point you should have a Shopify or some other way for people to say, I love that piece, click here and buy it. Whether it's Venmo me or however you do it, make it easy. If you have something that's available, and make sure it's listed as available. Oh, that's the other thing. And Diana doesn't do this because most of her stuff isn't for sale. It's all gone. But if it's for sale, put the price on it. That's actually, I think, the revolution that's happened this year. Galleries were notorious for not putting prices, not listing prices on their website, not listing prices on social media, not listing prices. Even if you went into the gallery, you had to actually go and get a price list. It wasn't on the label. I've always been against this because, as somebody who's bought art and as somebody who's sold art, I feel like, again, any barrier you put between you and the customer is a problem. And if people are looking at that painting of the rabbits in the field and they think how perfect it would be and they really love it, if they really love it, nothing is going to stop them. But if they are, you know, not Rockefellers, if they have a budget and they see, oh, that rabbit painting is $1,200, I might be able to afford that. I'll think about it. But if they see it's $12,000 or $120,000, they'll just think to themselves, well, I may just enjoy this a little longer and take a picture of it, but I'm not even going to think about buying it. But if they had to actually go over and find out what the price was from the gallery owner and then discover it was $120,000, then they feel embarrassed. They're like, well, of course, I don't have $120,000 to spend on a picture of rabbits. You don't want to put people in that so they won't even go. We had an experiment with my first gallery that we had the price list. It was all on all the labels, but we had a price list for people to be able to take with a bio information about the artists. We had it right by the door, and then we moved it in closer to the desk. And the number of people who took it when it was by the door, like I would constantly be replenishing that supply. When it was over at the desk where people had to actually come near a human, almost nobody took the paper. And it was not like it was hidden. It was right there. But it's like, there are such small things. But because now things have come to the internet, you have to put the price on. Nobody is going to go through 12 layers. So, you know, yes, if your art is for sale, make it easy to buy and make the price available.
I have a question. I'm also I'm studying marketing with an interest in sports, so I've been tuned into everything you were saying. But what has been like the skill or set of skills that you've transferred from, you know, your experience with sports to art? Because I'm also like, I want to go in sports, but I also have interest in art.
I don't know actually that there are that many that translated, other than being very social. Because sporting events are also networking events and marketing events, and you know, it is a product in a different way. In some ways, it's performance art because you've got a series of rules and a series of athletes and an arena or whatever, and things happen in a somewhat controlled way. and you are marketing the audience. You are trying to gain an audience to watch the sport or engage in the sport. And it's the same. You want to draw an audience in to see your work in that show, and hopefully buy it, as opposed to buying a ticket. I was, less involved in the marketing of the sports. I was more involved in reporting on it and televising it. I think it's all knowing the group, knowing the circus you're part of. That's what I think both of them are. They have their own language. They have their own elites. They have their own cliques. They have the people you need to meet and the things you need to be part of. As I said, like, go to conferences, which in this case would be, there are actually conferences on the arts, depending on if you want to go to marketing, there are trade organizations about arts marketing, and they have, I don't know, they've had fewer, but they used to have, you'd sign up and spend the whole day in a hotel in New York, listening to panels of amazing experts that they brought in from around the world. But, sort of start being aware of stuff like that. I'd say in sports and in arts, there is a horrible elitist element that needs to be battled, or you need to actually try to fit in. Either way, I think in the arts, you're lucky that you can actually ignore it. I was talking to a friend about podcasts the other day, and a lot of the arts podcasts like to use this, this very distancing, I think, elitist vernacular that the arts has. And then there are others that don't. And I would highly recommend, especially if you're into photography, Sasha Wolf has a podcast called, I think, PhotoWorks. I don't know, I follow it and I listen to it every time because she's so engaging. And she's one of these people, she used to be a filmmaker, and she studied fine art photography, and she has had 3 galleries. I actually met her for the first time when she was about to close her last gallery, and she was in a sort of existential problem about it. And then she said, but the problem is I just feel like all the deals I'm doing, because she's so well connected and represents some really amazing photographers, all the deals I'm doing don't actually have, anybody who wanders into my gallery just wants to drink my wine and coffee and take up my time. It's not really worth it. But so she closed it down, and now she has a private space, and she said literally nobody noticed except those people who wanted coffee. But she is one of those people who literally does not care what anybody thinks of her. She knows what she likes, and she's very direct, and she's very refreshing. She does know the complex language of real fine art photography in a way that I have to say I don't. I can appreciate photography, but I don't have the same vocabulary and feeling for it that I do with, say, painting or sculpture. So I'm always fascinated by the conversation she has with photographers. But someone like that is a treasure. And there are people like that who will speak directly to the arts. That's why I think this is now the greatest time to be a self-marketer. There are a million YouTube videos, there are podcasts, there are so many ways you can learn. Once you have an area you want to pursue, you can find so many experts. Like, I can't tell you how many photographers, because I know Sasha Wolf really well, have said to me through the art fair, can you get me a mentorship with Sasha Wolf? I'm like, I mean, yes, she does them. But I don't want, it has to be, for me to ask her to look at a photographer is a big deal. But I say to them, you can sign up on her website. She does mentorships. She's just such a down-to-earth, great, she knows so much what she's talking about that if, say, photography is an interest of yours, absolutely listen to her podcast. And she's just a great presence. But there are a lot of people who play into the elitist, snobby part of the art world. And I personally don't like it. I personally try to fight it. That's why I like that our art fair is so Jersey grounded. There's just no way that a Jersey art fair is going to be super elitist. And I like that. We're named 14C. It's our exit. It's our joke. But we have phenomenal artists, and we want people to have fun. And that's what I think has been nice about the first 2 art fairs we've had is everybody seems to have this real sense of fun when they come to it. Trish, would you say?
It's awesome. A great experience.
Yeah.
I really enjoy it. And the first 2 years it was at the Hyatt. I think the news at the Manna, it's going to be really interesting. I'm excited about that one.
Yeah.
And it just to meet so many different artists and from all over and just the whole experience. It's a 3-day experience and you reconnect with people too. I had bought an artist's work when my children were really little. And I bought it from her house. She had like an open house and I bought her piece. And I met her at the last 14C again last year. She had it was Anne, I'm so bad with last names. She had the fence piece that was by the ballroom, that big long fence piece.
Oh, yes. And Dobek.
And oh, I was so great to connect with her. And I'm like, I have your piece. And she's like, I remember you. And it was really neat to reconnect with her. But it's so many different artists and really well-known artists, just incredible.
That's what that's what our design was, is not only because art fairs should have, if they're done right, if they are really, like ours is a nonprofit, it's created to serve the artists. It's created to expand opportunities for artists. It's created to help strengthen small galleries. It's created to increase the connection between the public and fine art. So it's not just about selling artwork. It's about having art advisors from New York City come and find you and talk to you. We had museum people there. I mean, it's about expanding the opportunities you can get by being in a group where it's not just art lovers who are coming to see things and maybe buy things. It's also the arts industry that is coming to discover people. As I said at the beginning, people really, 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 really want to discover new artists. They are desperate to discover new artists. So I mean, I give away every year a lot of free complimentary VIP tickets to people in the New York art world and the Philadelphia art world. And, it has paid dividends for a lot of our artists. We've had people get commissions and gallery representation and solo shows, and it's been really, really good. And I think it'll just keep going because, assuming COVID doesn't wipe us out again, we would have happened about 3 weeks ago if it hadn't been for COVID. So we got postponed to October.
But being on people's radar, it was a great opportunity. I also ran into Melanie, the director from the Summit Visual Arts Center. Mm-hmm. And I'm actually going to be having a solo show because I stayed on her radar. I was connecting and of course I submitted the work, but you got to be on people's radar.
Yeah. And see, I think that's the same the question with the sports world. It's like, you have to become part of the ecosystem. Just being in your garret painting away is not enough. You do have to make as many connections as possible and remind people you exist. And and follow them on Instagram and tag them and talk about, how great their gallery is or how great their show at the art fair was and how much you enjoyed seeing this work and, engage.
Definitely. Does anyone else have any questions? Any guys?
I do want to say one other thing about websites. I've noticed because I'm looking for Jersey artists specifically, although our art fair does, we had exhibitors from Tokyo and Moscow and Sao Paulo and, and Detroit. We do have a specific desire to showcase New Jersey artists. So I'm always looking for them. And when I look at websites, if they have not tagged themselves as an NJ artist and I just stumble across them, I can't tell you how many times I see that somebody is an NYC area artist or a Philadelphia area artist. And I can guarantee that is code for New Jersey and we all know it. Because if you live on Long Island or Connecticut or, Bucks County, you're going to say where you live. Jersey, for some reason, there's this stigma, and get over it. We need to be proud of being Jersey artists. And it does make me laugh how often I see NYC area artist. Be honest, people. It's okay. You're in Jersey.
That's good advice.
Yeah, and I think being honest and authentic is actually the best thing you can do. People, as I said, people want to know who you are, and acting like you're Ross Bleckner is not going to do it. You have to be you. You have to be able to explain your art, because not everybody's going to get it right away, and they shouldn't have to. You know, it's not, and that's not a problem. Everybody sees things differently, and so being able to explain in the most open, honest, and authentic way about what you do and why you do it and how you do it, it will charm people, and they will like you, and they will want to buy your work and show your work.
That's great advice. I'm so glad that you joined us today, Robinson.
Well, I hope it was helpful.
You've been,
Very helpful.
what a wonderful treat.
Very helpful.
Very lucky that
I'm going to actually put my email in the chat, and feel free to write to me. You can go to Art Fair 14C, which I actually, and I've just been talking to people about websites, and we're about to like revamp our website. So I almost don't want to send you there because it's not set up for the next art fair yet, but you can go there and join our mailing list. And of course, we always need help during the fair. So if you're interested in volunteering or being a summer intern as we get this fair going, please, feel free to write to me and to seek us out, because we exist for you guys. We really want to encourage the visual arts. We want to encourage more people to experience it. We want to encourage more artists to be able to do it as a living. So yeah, we'd be happy for your help. We'd be happy to have you come to the fair. But yeah, if you ever have any questions, please just remind me where I met you, and and feel free to ask anything.
Thank you, Robinson.
Oh, no problem.
Thank you.
And yeah, let me know, tell me if you've got your Instagram, let me know what they are, and I'll follow you, or the art fair will follow you. Okay, yeah, we're at like everything. We're Art Fair 14C at Instagram and everything.
Perfect.
Okay. Well, thank you. This was a real treat for me too.
Well, thank you
I
so
look
much.
forward to